It's an interesting time to call an emergency meeting. What exactly the emergency is remains to be seen, because I think it's fair to say that we've gone into a lot of these meetings over the past couple of weeks, expected one thing, and then something entirely different gets spoken about. In fairness, there was the threat of legal action from Tim O'Leary here over the last couple of weeks. So the relations with the International Supporters Foundation has been troubled somewhat when it comes to their discourse. I have seen tonight's agenda, though, and one of the motions on the agenda is clarification in relation to the vote of confidence. So we can expect that to be spoken about at some length tonight. Of course, Richie, as you mentioned there, the 7 clubs who came out against the county board and that vote of confidence, that is the reason why they came out during the week. They didn't feel that there was a true motion. They didn't feel it was put forward in the correct manner, and they didn't feel it was passed in the correct manner. So perhaps they'll revisit it tonight. Perhaps they will maintain that. Who knows? Hopefully we will have some clarity afterwards. There will be no media opportunities after this, of course. We will be issued a statement, I expect, by the Mayo County Board. I've issued a few questions for them. Hopefully they'll get back to me within the coming hours or perhaps the coming days. But hopefully we'll have some more illumination on a fairly complex story by the end of tonight.
Yeah, they clearly have been, I don't know if spooked is the right word, enough to hold this emergency general meeting. The fact that the press locked out of things suggests that they mightn't be that keen for the discourse to be made that public, though.
You would think that there seems to be a general air of suspicion when it comes to the press. Mayo have a bit of a history, I guess, of not being fully trustworthy. I guess it doesn't help from the county board's perspective that there is always something interesting to talk about. And naturally, when you have interesting stories, journalists can sometimes pry too close for the county board's liking, and perhaps that has built up a bit of friction over the years. And perhaps their, banishing of the press away from these sort of events is at the end of a couple of years of distaste for the media, perhaps over the last few years. So, but that's kind of a mini defence for them. But it is unusual that perhaps they wouldn't let them sit in and actually see what's going on. Like, what do you have to hide, basically, from the media? This story is not one that has been generated by the media, in fairness. It was a bad enough story, but a reasonable story on both sides, until you had certain emails leaking, certain comparisons with a donkey, certain songs being played at matches that took this to the next level. Blaming the media for that is probably not a reasonable out, and then actually banishing them here is a strange enough decision. But let's hope we do get some sort of clarity come the end of the evening. Yeah,
it's a pretty messy one, all right. You've been getting the opinion of some people around you there on the ground this evening?
Yeah, Castlebar is an interesting place at the moment. Everybody wants to talk about it, but nobody wants to put their voices on the record, especially when it comes to some of the more notable ex-players and county legends around here. The big names all have an opinion, but they don't want to stir this pot any further, it seems. They want this thing to be over. There have been some voices, though, that I have been speaking to in Castlebar throughout the afternoon, so have a listen to 3 of them here.
Yeah, we're here in Castlebar in the centre of Mayo, and you can nearly literally hear Mayo GAA tearing itself apart. It's on everyone's lips. It's the main topic of conversation. It's so sad to see, because Mayo GAA is so embedded in our society here, and for once there's a real bad feeling around Mayo GAA, and we're renowned as such supporters that can take any amount of hurt, but that's on the field. I think the hurt we're feeling now is different. It's more serious. It's more in the soul of Mayo GAA, and I think that has really torn people to shreds, really.
We don't seem to get a clear picture from either side. I think maybe there's too much of gossip going on at the moment as to what is going on. We would like to know from both sides and give both sides a chance to air their views. I think that's important. From a publican's point of view, you listen to the negative and the positive, but it's funny, always the negative story comes out straight away when you ask about something. It's all negative.
It's a sad thing too as well. It's not alone the talk of the town, the talk of the country, the talk of the county. We had 3 years talking and listening to people about Brexit. This is as bad, and it's a pity too as well. But I'm hopeful, and I'm genuinely hopeful that it'll be resolved sooner rather than later. It's sad to think that we're in the news again for all the wrong reasons. The thing about football, the thing about sport, everybody has an opinion. There's a huge Mayo following. People think they're right, other people think they're wrong, and whatever people think, it's their own opinion. But I am hopeful, definitely hopeful, and I sincerely do wish that the thing would be resolved sooner rather than later.
How much time do you have, really? I mean, it's a long-running saga that unfortunately, only puts Mayo in the headlines for the wrong reasons again at this time of year. It seems every year Mayo don't win the All-Ireland, they still somehow become the story towards the end of the year. My own thoughts on it are just that it's been handled very badly, probably on both sides, to be fair. To give the County Board a bit of credit, is that they have been blindsided at times by some of the letters that or emails that have been sent to them, maybe the time and right before meetings and that. But then they don't do themselves any favours by having meetings in camera, and then almost immediately what happens in that meeting gets out. You have clubs then saying, hang on, you're saying something happened that didn't happen. And it just begins to kind of beg belief as to what's actually going on. Do the executive know themselves what their plan is, what they need to do? And then on the other side of things, are they being pushed a little bit too hard maybe at times by Tim O'Leary and the foundation?
There you go. That's Owen Sheehan getting the view of Mayo people on the ground on this crisis engulfing Mayo GAA at the moment. Slightly unfortunate that one member said that Mayo GAA is tearing itself apart while we heard a saw going in the background. But Owen, there is a definite sense there that there's a pride that's been wounded about Mayo GAA surrounding this entire saga.
Yeah, I guess there is. I guess there's just a sense of fatigue at this point that there is yet another winter where they are the topic of discussion when it comes to the intercounty off-season. Like there's big club action this weekend involving Mayo GAA. People aren't talking about that here. They're keen to get back to matters on the pitch, but this thing is just going to roll on. I mean, their convention isn't for a while yet, and there is different players and different campaign trails at the moment. There is a lot of politics going on behind closed doors here. It happens in every county, but when you've got this external force, which is this conflict with Tim O'Leary, for example, you can be sure that there are people looking to take advantage of that. They may be correct to take advantage of it. They may be correct. They are the better people for the job. But nonetheless, things are going to start to get a bit poisonous, you suspect, behind the scenes.
All right, Owen, we'll let you go and keep warm somewhere this evening because I fear it could be a long night in Castlebar. Owen Sheehan there reporting even on the latest from Mayo GAA. Owen has also been busy this afternoon catching up with the Mayo legend on this situation, Alan Dillon.
Well, I think it stems back to an email correspondence where, certain criteria were laid out in terms of governance and how money supplied by the foundation would be spent. And I think, some of that wasn't too demanding. I think if you looked across the other 31 counties across Ireland, even clubs at any sporting level, and looked at what was being asked for and the money on the table in terms of delivery on certain items, they bite your hand off for it. So, I think that was probably seen by the county board as being too intrusive, dealing in affairs that the foundation shouldn't be dealing in. But
do they have a point?
Well, again, I think the county board probably need to meet the foundation, at some level, because these guys are very successful businessmen, professionals in everything they do, and again, they have their own funding and corporate governance structure that they need to abide by, and I think the donors themselves need security in terms of where their money is being spent, and we see in other organisations and in other sporting codes that governance hasn't always been there. So
it does seem that that's a very reasonable point to make, that if you're somebody who is anti the county board, you can still have some sort of sympathy for where they've come from here. It's their money. They knew, well, they thought they would have thought it's their money. Perhaps they haven't had to deal with the situation before, and fair enough. You can get by that. This is kind of a very unique situation that they found themselves in this year. But the sympathy kind of stops when you think to yourself, well, why haven't they managed to just get their house in order after this? Why haven't they just said to Tim O'Leary, hold on a minute, we'll actually get you all the documentation, we will get you those development plans that you've asked for, because we're one of the top county boards in the country. We like a huge GAA county. We should have basics like development plans and all that sort of thing, no?
Yeah, I'd agree to an extent, but it takes time for this to evolve. And when you have a new foundation in place, you have an existing, county board executive who probably mightn't have the skill set or the expertise in order to put this in place immediately. I think that's where the issue lies.
Is that your understanding of things, that they are still working on it at the moment? They are still working to get O'Leary what he wants?
Yeah, well, my understanding is that the funds will not be distributed to the Mayo County
Well, that's
board.
fact, yeah.
Yeah, unless, a lot of these issues are resolved. And the sooner they're resolved, the sooner that Mayo can move forward on, the Training Academy project, the new Centre of Excellence, ensuring player welfare issues are to the fore.
So why do they think he's a donkey then, if this sort of stuff is being worked on?
Yeah, and I think, I know Tim, he's a very good guy, and the likes of that stuff is, it's tongue in cheek. It's stuff that, we don't need at this moment in time, especially when tensions are high, and there's a lot of commentary on it, and things like that. Even for club supporters, Mayo GAA supporters, the tone of the language wasn't respectful at all. And these guys, again, they put their time into it, away from their family, travel long distances. I think we should be more respectful in terms of how we communicate and how we deal with these fellas. And I think that comment, I'm sure they look back on it with some regret, and we've seen an apology from the county board, which was probably welcome from all parties, and I think we need to move on from that now as well.
Alan Dillon, ex of Mayo, and we'll hear more from Owen from that county board meeting tomorrow morning on OTB AM. As I mentioned, Shane Hannon in studio. Shane, catches up. What's going on in the Europa League?
Yeah, 62 minutes played, Richie in Rome. Lazio 1, Celtic 1 is the latest score in Group B. James Forrest, as you said, equalising from Ciro Immobile's opener. Serbi kind of falling asleep. Pub league defending, you would say, from both counts. Brutal in this game. So 62 minutes played in Rome, 1 goal apiece there. Cluj 0, Rennes 0 is the other latest score in that game. Manchester United, that is, can secure a place in the last 32 of the Europa League with a win at home to Partizan Belgrade.
He's coming out there.
Well, there's a few Uniteds, but there aren't any of the Uniteds in the Europa League tonight, are there?
No, there aren't.
You'll give me this one. 4 changes, Richie.
One.
4 changes from the team that, of course, lost to Bournemouth last weekend. Romero starts in goal. Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Rojo and Young are the back 4. Scott McTominay, Fredge, as Richie McCormick would pronounce it. Mason Greenwood and Juan Mata in the middle, and Tony Martial with Marcus Rashford up front. Astana 0, AZ Alkmaar 5 was a result in the early game elsewhere in Group L. Wolves welcoming Slovan Bratislava to Molineux. That's at 8 o'clock start as well. 3 changes to the Wolves team that drew with Arsenal last time out. Matt Doherty, of course, starts at right wing back, and Stephen Gerrard's Rangers take on Porto. That's at Ibrox at 8 o'clock. Rangers will go to the summit of their group with a win.
Mick McCarthy got the scissors out earlier on today. He's trimmed down his squad for this upcoming qualifier with Denmark, the all-important one at the Aviva, and that friendly with New Zealand as well. Indeed,
Troy Parrott and Leo Connor in his squad for this month's games against New Zealand and Denmark. Parrott and O'Connor make the move from the under-21 squad, of course. David McGoldrick is back from injury. Robbie Brady and Kieran Clark also return to the panel. Crystal Palace midfielder James McCarthy is asked not to be included for personal reasons.
Odd one.
Yeah, well, which part is odd?
The
James Carter stuff.
Yeah, the Leo Connor one, you can kind of see it.
Well, he's gone back to 21s for the second game as well. So, he's suspended for Armenia. So he's in it's interesting Matt Doherty plays tonight, actually, because he was the injury concern, because he's very important for the Denmark game with Seamus Coleman out, and Cyrus Christie has been bombed out of it completely. The McCarthy one, I don't know. I mean, he's probably not going to be involved in the Denmark game with that little club football under his belt. I know he spoke to Steve on Sunday and was suggesting that he wanted to get his club situation right before he played international again, and this backs it up. This is probably too soon.
It's just an odd one, seeing as McCarthy had omitted the likes of Robbie Brady given their lack of game time, whereas James McCarthy's probably played a similar amount of minutes or approaching and had been included without real question for the last 2 squads. But
he still hasn't come into a squad while McCarthy's been in charge. We haven't actually seen him in Ireland for a while. So, I don't know if he was ever really in the plans for Denmark in Mick McCarthy's mind.
Northern Ireland could be looking for a new manager.
Yeah, an interesting one today. Michael O'Neill looks set to leave his post as Northern Ireland manager to become the new boss at Stoke City. The Championship's bottom side without a boss, having sacked Nathan Jones, and they have made an official approach to the IFA. The Athletic claim that O'Neill has agreed a 4-year contract with Stoke that would see him double his Northern Ireland salary.
When you see those figures, it's kind of hard to see why he turned it down.
He is the highest paid Northern Ireland manager ever by some distance, and even still he's getting the opportunity to double his money with Stoke. Bit of a job trying to turn things around at Stoke, but if he can keep them up, it's one of the best jobs in the Championship. You know, they've been a Premier League club in very recent memory. They have a fair bit of cash. They've just made bad appointments or things haven't worked out. But I mean, Michael O'Neill, to get into the English cycle, you know, he needed to take a chance at some stage, and this is probably the chance now. It's harsh on Northern Ireland. It looks like you might actually stay around for their final 2 qualifiers, their big games, and if that happens, I think he's earned his chance.
I don't think anybody from the north could begrudge him at this stage, given what he's brought to
Someone
them.
will find a way.
Of course, yeah. But the vast majority,
someone will find a way.
sensible people will go, do you know what? Fair play. You kind of deserve this.
Yeah, he's done a brilliant job, and I mean, we think it's like 8 years since he left Shamrock Rovers. So it's the last time he worked in club football, and you know, at times he's maybe been overlooked for jobs. At other times he's been loyal and turned down other jobs. I think at this time it might just be that opportunity. But like he might only get one proper crack at a club in England. You need one that's patient and understanding. That division's chaos.
That's the worry. Like, he's been 8 years out of club management. Stoke are in such a shambles at the moment. Like, I think Sunderland would be the nearest comparison to them in terms of how they've shed players and they've tumbled down the league and look like they're in constant crisis. Yeah, but it would be a hell of an appointment for him, and not bad getting $1.5 million a year. One last story there, Shane.
Yep, the Galway hurling debacle seems to have come to a close. Shane O'Neill is poised to be appointed their new senior hurling boss. The former Piarsaigh manager is set to be recommended by the county selection committee to replace Micheál Donoghue in the top job. O'Neill's appointment would of course end that 3-month saga to find Donoghue's successor.
Cheers to that, Shane, and to Dan, who will be back for the football show. We'll keep tabs on the Europa League action tonight as well. Tonight we're giving you the chance as well to win a pair of tickets to the Motorsports Show, which is happening at the RDS on November 23rd and 24th. The show includes the live runway where spectators can view some of the world's most spectacular cars. If you want to go along to this and get in the draw for our ultimate end of week prize as well, simply tell us, at what track does the British Grand Prix take place? If you think, text the word motor, your name and your answer to 53106, and you could win those tickets. And as I say, you'll go into Sunday's draw for a pair of 2-day grandstand tickets for the 2020 London E-Prix, with flights and accommodation thrown in. A 4-star hotel is where you'll be staying, and it's all with thanks to the Motorsport Show at the RDS on November 23rd and 24th. See motorsportshow.com for more info. Nathan Murphy will return as if by magic after this short break, and with him, he'll bring John Giles.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
We all want to change our planet for the better. That's why, with the Volkswagen Climate Action Grant, if you're driving a Euro 1 to 4 standard emissions car, you could get up to €5,000 off a new Volkswagen. Choose a new plug-in hybrid, fully electric, petrol or efficient diesel model, and we'll take your old car off our roads. Our Climate Action Grant means that driving a new Volkswagen is easier on your pocket and on our planet. Find out if your car qualifies.